Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello, and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker, and I'm your host. And on this show, we're looking to help you to work smarter, to play smarter, to live smarter. That's what it's all about. And so I'm excited today to talk about it from an organizational perspective. Sandy Scholes is on with us today, and she is a Chief People and Culture Officer at Flip. And she's there to develop and execute people strategies. And we were just talking, and she's really passionate about it. And I'm excited for you to hear her passion about growth and change management and organizational performance and training and development and all that goes into that Chief People Officer role. So welcome, Sandy. It's great to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Penny. Great to be here.
So what makes you so passionate about people and culture?
There's lots, but as you and I were talking, I've had the wonderful opportunity to start my career off with telecom in a different industry. And I started off in international HR. And as I've gone through my career path and on my journey, I've worked in about 5 different industries, from private companies to public companies, from small to multinationals. And it's pretty clear that what's at the heart of creating an incredible organization, it's really all about setting an amazing culture and really treating people right and having strong leadership. Because I can see I've had the opportunity to see greatness, and I've had the opportunity to see not so great.
Not so great.
And you know what? You can see why. And that makes me so passionate because it's really exciting to try to influence it and make an organization great.
Yeah. Why is it that people, leaders and organizations, what is not happening that they're not seeing their people as their greatest asset?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if we could figure that out, we could go and make a lot of money across many, many organizations. I think it comes down with it's the executive, it's the leadership, it's at the top. You have to have an amazing CEO that truly gets it, that people is what makes an organization successful. And if you have that kind of commitment and focus at the top and the rest of the executive team believe it, you'll see that go all the way through the organization. And it's very, very clear, and it permeates through the whole culture and what you do every day. When you don't, it's pretty clear. People are smart. Employees, when you're in an organization, if an organization cares about what you do or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, energy is palpable, isn't it? And I always talk about energy management, and that doesn't just apply to how we as individuals show up for our time, although it does, right? That person that walks in the room and just sucks the energy right out. But sometimes you could walk in a building and you just know from the culture that it's toxic, right?
You are so right. Even in interviews.
Yeah.
When you're in an interview and you're talking to somebody, you can tell if they love what they're doing. It comes across. They're so proud of everything they do. They're proud of the programs, the people they work with. I'm totally with you. You can feel it.
And at the end of the day, right, the show's about productivity. I believe that is the ultimate, right? If you don't have an organization that is working well together, then it doesn't matter if one individual is productive, right? You're not as a whole going to be productive.
You are so right.
So you've been across all these different industries. You said you've seen good, you've seen the bad, you've seen the ugly. Mm-hmm. What do you think differentiates that leader that creates that positive culture that people want to work for the organization, and ones that don't? What are one of the two of the factors that you've seen?
I think it's part of it's what you're talking about around productivity. So I think, if you look at productivity, it can really only happen if you step back and say, what are you asking me to do? So what goals, what are you really clear about doing? So a really amazing leader will inspire people. We'll talk about what's your vision? Where are we trying to go as an organization? And how can I help grow and develop you so that you can be the best and contribute towards what we're trying to accomplish as a company? So it's really bringing meaning and purpose to your job. And it's supporting individuals, really supporting them in their growth and development to help them make sure that they've got the tools, the resources, the kind of support they need in order to get their job done. So that, I think, is like the most critical thing you can do.
So let's focus on meaning and purpose, because I think that's huge, for all of us, right? That for us to inspire, or I should say motivate ourselves, right? We can be inspired, but the motivation comes intrinsically. And when we can connect to that meaning. So how does a leader help me? Like, how do you at Flip, right? How do you help to inspire that motivation in others? How do you help them to see that greater meaning and own it, right? Instead of a transaction, it be like an ownership.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it comes back to really making sure you're clear about what your culture is as an organization. And at Flip, we have very strong sense of values, very strong values, and we call them the 3 H's, and we have this other-centeredness, but humble, hungry, and highly intelligent. We make sure that when we go into an interview process, 60% of what we decide on is around fit. So it's all about the fit, is making sure that someone is other-centered, they live those values. So bringing someone into the organization that truly has that kind of integrity, we know they're going to fit and they're going to be able to work really, really well with their peers. And I think as it goes on, you need to sit down and make sure that you understand, what is someone passionate about? I've talked to my organization about this all the time. I truly believe that we should be identifying what people are passionate about. If you can have your employees, your team members do what they love and what they're passionate about, you're going to get the performance, you're going to get the alignment, and they're going to feel a sense of connection, right? And purpose, because they're going to do an amazing job. I don't know anyone who has ever done something they love and they don't do it very well. You end up seeing lots of great success.
Right. And then that's where that internal motivation comes. They're already passionate about it. It's like, hey, you're going to pay me to do what I'm passionate about? Hey, I love that.
Exactly.
So I love that. So what I heard you say, and I'm repeating a couple of these points for the listeners to really take this and understand it, that first of all, you're very clear and very descriptive. I like that, the 3 H's, right? It's humble, hungry, and highly intelligent. They're descriptive values and not sort of the generic type of values, right? So they're descriptive in nature. So you interview for them. So when you interview, do you have specific questions that help you to understand whether somebody's a fit?
We do. And we have a scorecard process, and we have 3 different stages in the interview process, and everyone, regardless of being a hiring manager, peers, client groups, everyone is looking for those 3 H's and other-centeredness. And so we provide questions, and we make sure that we get very specific behavioral examples to justify or to validate that the person does truly, that's intrinsic and they live those.
So it's the behavior, right? The words are descriptive of the behaviors that you want to see. I've seen a lot of people who say, yeah, we've defined our values, but they haven't defined the behaviors that go with those values. I'd like you to talk a little bit about that and how that creates a greater ownership for each individual employee.
That's a great question. So, and it's something, we've had a hard time with the humble. So when you talk about a behavior, because humble to everyone, when you talk about humble, some people believe that means really stepping back. And it means like, as an other-centered individual, really not taking credibility or not being credible in something, or not showcasing themselves. And so sometimes when someone goes through an interview process, you're going into the interview and you're prepping, you want to be able to sell yourself. You want to be able to make sure that you get these examples, because everyone teaches you that. I've got to show them that I can really do these things. And we've had the conversation many times where some people will say, no, they seem like they're too confident. I don't know if they fit in. They don't seem humble. So to your point, there's lots of different behaviors that we have to make sure that people are really aware of. We do training. So we actually have videos around all of our culture and around these values about what they are and what they are not, just to make sure that we are clear around what those behaviors would look like.
So let's take humble as an example, because I think you made a good point there, is that, you can define a word, but if everybody doesn't understand the same thing about that word, right? Humble can mean different things to different people. And so I like that you're saying, here's the behavior and here's what it is and here's what it's not. So can you give us like one example that might be in your training that doesn't give away the show, that says, here is a humble behavior that we expect in the organization and here is what it's not?
Yeah, it's funny. We have this little card. I don't even know if you can see it, but it's really interesting. It talks about our different values and all of our principles, and how we define humble as being confident, but knowing that there's always room for improvement. And so some of the examples that we talk about that are examples, and we'll bring them around our own work groups that we're doing. So how can we be very comfortable and confident when we roll out a program or we make product updates, or, from a people perspective, if we roll out a program, which we're working on right now, performance and development, what went really well? What should we really be proud of? Make sure we share. What do we learn from this? Those are all the things around learning and growth. But, where are areas of improvement? What can we always do better? So these worked really, really well. And these are areas that we're going to build on and improve upon going forward. So we kind of look at it in that context.
So what is it not?
What is it not? It's not keeping quiet. It's not being proud of some of these great things that we're doing. It doesn't mean that you can't celebrate as a team and really, acknowledge all the great things that are going on.
I love it. And because a lot of people, may feel like, well, I've defined my values, right? So that's good enough. I've got this. And I want them to see that, there is a deeper level. And I love that you guys are really, you've got it on the card and you've got the videos and you're really, living it. It's not just a word that's on the wall. You're living it in everything that you do.
And it is really important because I've seen too many organizations where you do put it on the wall. So you're totally right. And you don't live it. The wonderful thing is during COVID, you can appreciate the fact it's been pretty difficult to try to make sure that people feel connected and you still feel part of this really strong culture and you don't lose that. Like that's top of mind. If, what keeps me up at night? Well, we're going to go remote and we're probably going to stay in this world of remote in the future, or at least a hybrid, right? The future of work's going to look very different. How do you maintain such an incredible culture and how do you maintain values that are really important so that it doesn't change too much? So we have a culture team. It has about 15 individuals from across our organization. They've been incredible at being ambassadors of what should we look at. So we rolled out a virtual award ceremony based on our values last November. And it was unbelievable to see the kind of nomination. So it was a peer-driven nomination process where people could acknowledge all the great work and how people live the values in the company. We did that to reinforce the importance of it and start to celebrate. Start to really make it top of mind because there are people who are complete ambassadors and make it an amazing place to work and they go above and beyond. And we rolled this program out in November and it was fantastic. And we're going to do this as an annual thing that we're going to organize every year. And I don't think it would have happened if we weren't in COVID, believe it or not.
I totally believe it. I mean, I think the benefit for many organizations, even though it's painful to go through, is it's hard for us to get outside the box and think outside the box. And with COVID, it pushed us right outside the box. Yeah. So it was either like, get creative or sink or swim, right? So either you get creative and you pivot or, you go down with the ship. And I think many organizations did come up with some really great creative ways to engage their people and change their business model so that, it's going to work more effectively. What else did you do during COVID that you think made a difference to continue to, that might be a tip for other people who are listening and they see the next year, at working from home and working in this way? What are some other things?
So 90% of our organization are millennials or Gen Z. And so some of the challenges you can appreciate, we have all these moms and dads with young children and with everything going on with COVID and all the schools canceling. We've had a lot of people on screen where you see the kids coming up and, they're like bugging their mom, bugging their dad, and there's a lot of stress. So we're getting a lot of stress across the organization. And you can appreciate the fact, how do you get your job done? How do you get all the demands of your job while you have your job at home now with your kids?
Right.
And taking care of them and making sure that they feel great or whatever other things that are pulling and grabbing your time. So we have done a lot of things. One, we wanted to make sure that we provided a little bit less stress and changed the way that we work. So we basically said to all of our team members, forget the regular hours of work. Your 8:30 to 4:30, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever it might be, that can go out the window. Your family comes first. And we've sent very strong messages to all of our coaches and leaders in the organization around flexibility. So if you see people and they need to get off the screen or they have to take care of breakfast for their kids or they have to go take care of lunch, that's okay. That's first priority. So we have complete flexibility. And then just recently, we wanted to do something where, how do you alleviate the stress of households? Because right now, we used to say bring your whole self to work. Now it's really bring work is in your home.
Right.
So we provided a laundry service just recently for our parents with kids on a monthly basis to have this laundry service, which is a huge help. I have 3 teenage boys, and I'll tell you that makes a big difference. It's like 30 pounds of laundry on a monthly basis that I don't have to do and I don't have to iron. I love it.
I hear you.
And we're just trying to do different things to also engage people. So we're trying to capture best practices, and people have been extremely creative across our organization, ranging from like morning check-ins with their groups, they kind of like with check-in words for the week to, having cooking classes where they follow cooking and someone will be on the screen, to candle making, to, they'll read books, and instead of training and development and going to courses, someone will read a book. And now people are trying to share the learning across the organization. Mm-hmm. I think people are being extremely creative, and it's amazing to see the level of teamwork that is being displayed.
Those are really great ideas. And I love that what that tells me, and this is also, I think, the sign of a great organization, is the organization is taking responsibility for how do we help reduce this stress and how do we help to create more flexibility. Laundry service being a great example, we can reduce the stress. We can take some of that, giving more flexible hours. What can we do so that we can do our part so that people will do the best they can to do their part? I think a lot of organizations don't do enough. Like they do some and they feel like, well, that's good enough. It's up to the employee to manage it. Or you have people who say that's not fair. I don't have kids, so it's not fair that you give them flexibility, and I've seen a lot of that on LinkedIn going back and forth, of bad mouthing an organization that's trying to do something. I think it's good that you guys are taking that. What do you say to, do you have people who say, well, that's not fair to us because it's really more of a benefit to them? Do you have any of that? Wah?
You know what? I was actually expecting a little bit more. We had a couple people asking the question, why not for the whole organization? But when we stepped back and said, listen, you can see the stress on the screen, and we're trying to make sure it's not one size fits all. Everybody is unique and there's unique situations. So once we had a conversation, we tabled it. It was really good. We did it at one of they're equivalent to town halls. We call them big scrums. And we have monthly updates, and everyone gets on the screen and they can ask questions. And those are some of the questions. And I'm so happy people brought them up. And once we talked about it, I think it was completely understood.
Right.
What we did do too, though, is we also at the same time said, listen, we've given dinner vouchers out to the whole organization to alleviate, and make it a little bit special so people could have dinner cooked for them or delivered to them so they don't have to do it themselves. So we're trying to think of all different groups and different things that we can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I think is the biggest pain, is I never realized I have to cook so many different meals. And here's the thing, is I used to be home by myself. Like I've worked from home for a long time and now everybody's here. And I didn't really use that many dishes. I don't know. It seems like every single dish in the house is used every single meal, like ridiculous. We run the dishwasher like twice a day. It's just like the amount of work definitely at home has definitely increased. So I'm sure God, people are seeing those stresses.
I can completely relate to you. So in fact, I said to the guys today, okay, we have to put a new schedule together because this just is not working. I am sick of unloading and loading the dishwasher every day, so I'm going to put a list together of who's vacuuming, who's doing the dishes. And so we're going to put a new schedule in place just for the reason you're talking about.
Right. When you said you have teenage boys, right? So I have a teenage boy as well. And I never knew how much this kid ate. He's at school, so I don't realize what he gets at lunch. And I was like, wow, this is something serious. So, and then we have the food police. So don't eat that. That's mine. And, there's all these new dynamics that you have to deal with. But seriously, I want to go back to the point of the flexibility of hours. And I want to talk about, then I want to shift gears a little bit, but how did that work? I mean, it doesn't, so let's say you have client meetings right? What if there's not the ability, like I hear a lot of organizations saying, we just can't offer that level of flexibility because we need to have people attending meetings and things like that at certain times.
We have not found it difficult to be able to accommodate people.
Mm.
And I would say people will jump in. So our sales organization, our business development team, they're the ones obviously that call on all the clients. The clients themselves are fantastic. I mean, they're going through the same challenges. So the minute you say to a client, you know what, this person, Sandy can't make the meeting right now. We're going to go ahead. We might have to send you information afterwards. People get it.
Yeah.
I think it's just being fully transparent. And I believe that showing the support for your people, everyone on the other side respect that and admire, they like it better and they respect you for making that decision. So we haven't had any issues with that, to be honest with you.
I think so too. I think we have this like set of rules. This is a perfect environment for us to kill those stupid rules because they are stupid rules. Who set them up? Like, that a meeting, because I think sometimes clients want to meet outside of hours because of, like you said, everybody's going through this. And instead of assuming what the client wants or assuming, this is the way it always was, this is how we should do it, why not ask the question? Why not open it up and see how it works? So I think that it is a perfect opportunity outside the box to kill some of those stupid rules. Did you guys kill any stupid rules that you had?
I love where you're going with this. I think we're starting to. Meetings, for instance, we are starting to kill the number of meetings that you have to be at and who should be at all those meetings. So it's not important. If I'm not going to make a decision at a meeting, I can completely empower someone on my team. They can go, they can make that decision. I don't need to be there. It's not like everyone has to be in these meetings. Let's free up some time for people. Travel. Our sales organization was so used to traveling all the time with customer sites. Our customers are saying, you don't need to travel anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing. So people are able to stay home with their families. We have people who saw their family 50% of the time because they're traveling all the time. Now they're home all the time. Like, it's amazing. Their quality of life has improved. Everything's improving. So I agree with you. Like, we have to really challenge some of these things. The other area I think is around mental health. It was always taboo. We shouldn't say anything about health. We're all very open now. Like, if I have an appointment and I need to take my son to an appointment, doctor's appointment, or, there's some challenges that I'm going through or my family's going through, we're very open about it. And you don't have to feel like you're pressured to share whatever you're uncomfortable. You don't have to be comfortable sharing it, but
you have to go into the nitty gritty detail, right? No. You can just say at a high level, having a challenge, need a little space.
And you know what? People are great. Customers are great with that. The minute you can be real and say, you know what? Like, we actually care about our people. I think that the one thing COVID has done, it has brought this humanity back where we're able to be a little bit vulnerable. We're able to be a little bit more real and care for one another. And I hope that doesn't go away, because that's the one
fourth
thing
H
that I like.
That's your fourth H.
There you go.
The humanity. I agree. I think that it's, in some ways they say we're disconnected, but I think in some ways, if done right, it's deepened our connections and our ability to connect.
I agree.
It's a question whether we take advantage of that, right? And, that's then up to the organization and the individual.
And I just hope we don't lose that. So we're going to do everything we can to keep that.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I want to shift a little bit into conversation around, I'm actually working on a new book. So I wanted to ask you, it's around culture to an extent. And I'm talking about ownership, right? And a lot of people, there's a lot of focus, and I hear a lot of organizations, they have problems with accountability. And I think that that's the wrong view, that their problem is with personal ownership. Mm-hmm. But we're focused on accountability, which tends to be at the end of the process where we slap somebody in the hand and it's all about consequences. Mm-hmm. What would you say to that? Like, what do you think is the difference? How do we hold people accountable and have them have ownership? And what's the difference there for you?
I think that's a great question. I think I touched on it a little bit earlier when I talked about goals. I'm a big proponent of setting goals because I went to a course years ago when I worked for an organization, BD, and I remember we had a leadership development course, and a big aha went off when we were talking about this story and this book, and it was about this gentleman who he found that people just weren't performing well. And he was trying to figure out why aren't they? And they were so stressed, they were nervous, they didn't want to fail. And so in essence, what he did is he made sure at the beginning of the year, he said to all these people, you're going to be like an A student. And so regardless of what you do, you're going to be an A student. That's your mark at the end of the year. You have nothing to worry about. And so all these kids performed exceptionally well. And I think it comes back to, and I've always kept that with me to say, what can we do? It's around accountability, but how do you help people have that ownership? It's about having a conversation at the beginning of every fiscal year. It's about understanding what the organization's trying to do and how you can contribute and what your goals are. And to the point where I try to drive home with my team when we're coaching leaders, it's not just when you put a goal together and we talk about SMART goals. I'm sure people who've gone through training talk about SMART goals. It's
Right.
more than that. You need to understand it. You have to own the fact that if I've got these goals and you're my leader, what does A plus look like at the end of the year then? So you know what, Penny, if you want me to deliver this program, at the end of the year, it shouldn't be a question mark how I performed. We should be very clear how I did, because at the beginning of the year, we had concrete clarity as to what an A looks like or what a B would look like. And I think if you spend the time up front, which is a pain in the butt sometimes because it takes a lot of time and effort.
It does.
And it goes back, you go back and forth a couple times. But if you take the time up front and you get that clarity, the accountability, the person owns it. They own it. And then as a leader, you have ongoing conversations. I know at Flip, we have monthly conversations, coaching conversations around our goals, and we have quarterly conversations around our growth and development goals. But if you're having these conversations ongoing, the person owns what they're doing. And at the end of the year, there's no surprises.
No surprises. It's managing the expectation. And I had the same experience where in our organization, everybody was getting great reviews, but the organization wasn't performing. And we're like, that's not possible. So the CEO said, wait a second, this is wrong, right? You can't get great reviews and the organization not be, doing well. So revamped the whole thing and did exactly that. So I believe that, but it did take a long time in defining, here's what A looks like. This is over and above. This is, when we define each of those levels so that there was no question at the end, as to were we in line. It was clear and the organization would be performing if everybody got, above meets or above, right? Then
because you do hear, like, the biggest complaint I've heard being in people is at the end of the year, manager saying, this is so demotivating. I am so uncomfortable. I have to deliver like a performance rating to these people. And you know what? It demotivates them. I can't tell everyone that they're like amazing, whatever your score, your ratings are.
Right.
And I always go back to say, but not everyone did perform at the A plus. Not everyone did. And there is a differentiation. And if you had the conversations along the way, there would be no difficult conversations because everyone would know how they're doing.
Yes, absolutely. Because you'd be checking in along the way. It's not, and some companies are going away from these year-end reviews for exactly that reason, because that's one of those stupid rules that will review you once a year and not on a regular basis. How do you see that at Flip?
I totally agree. So I would not support, setting goals at the beginning of the year, not having conversations at the end of the year, giving a rating to an individual. This is not fair. It's not fair. So I'm all about it's about the conversation. We're adults. It's about the conversation and how do I support my team and give them the tools, because I want everyone to hit it out of the park. I want them to all do fantastic. So it's around the conversations, it's around the month and reducing the barriers. Like along the way, you'll find out, okay, so why aren't you able to deliver? Like what's getting in your way? And sometimes things will get in the way. Sometimes the market changes. To your point, the organization's starting to pivot or something's happening. And then you have to back up and say, okay, where are we going to reprioritize and what can we do differently? But you have to have those conversations in order to make sure that you're guiding them.
Absolutely. That's the leader's role, right? Is you're going to save a lot of time by investing a little bit more time in communication and conversation about those timely reviews than what it takes to pack it all into a year. It's like cramming it just reminds me my kids are, going through AP tests right now and stuff. It's like cramming for a test is doing the whole year at once versus taking those little incremental tests and making sure that you're developing the skills or reaching the goals along the way.
I think that's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah. I just made that connection. I hadn't made it. And I want to circle back around and then we need to wrap up, but I just want to keep talking with you. So let's circle back around to that passion and finding people's passion and tapping into the passion. Because if one part of ownership is kind of managing that expectation and setting the goals together, the other part is that motivation, right? And tapping into their passion. How do you see as a leader, how do leaders do that? How do they tap into an individual's passion?
I think it's a great question. You have to have the conversation right up front. So it comes back down to, I call it job sculpting. So I believe every leader has an opportunity to have a conversation with their team members to find out, in your job, here's what the challenges are. This is where we're going to focus. This is the areas you need to work on. This is what you're going to deliver. At the same time, what do you love? What is it about your job you love? What don't you love to do? And okay, so if you're telling me that you love communication and influencing, then what can I do? What projects, what development projects can I do? What do I think about what's going on in the organization? How can I get you involved in other areas that really encompass that communication and influence? So how do you draw on that? So it comes back to a conversation. So what we've done is this past year, we created in our performance and growth program, right at the beginning of the year, every leader sits down and talks about and asks questions with their team members. What do you love to do? What are you passionate about? What do you want to do from a career aspiration perspective? We pull those things together and we create their own goals. And sometimes we'll sculpt things where, what does that mean? If your role does not encompass a lot of the stuff that you're passionate about, how can we bring that into your role? How do we kind of carve it out and change it a little bit? And so we're on this journey now of what I call job sculpting and really trying to create this across the organization and help leaders have the skills and capabilities to be able to have those kind of conversations.
Can you share an example of where you've been able to creatively do that? Like, in my head, I think about like somebody who's passionate about animals and gardening and maybe art, right? But how does that fit into the organization? So I'd love to hear an example so that leaders out there can connect the dots. Like sometimes it's like, well, that sounds good in theory, but how do I do that?
Yeah, I think so I'll give you a very recent example. And I'm sure that the individual on my team will not be upset if I share this. And she's just complete advocate and champion for development and coaching and life coaching. So there's an individual that's on our team. She was providing support on the area of engagement when we launch engagement surveys and doing a lot of other things in the organization on training and development support programs. She talked to us and said she wanted to go get her own life coaching certification, which she did. She's extremely passionate around helping people around their careers, like think about their careers and what they're doing. So another project that we're rolling out is career pathing and what your career journey is. And so very clearly, we moved her from her current role. We moved her into this career journey. So she's helping us work with a third-party vendor, launching all of our career pathing. And as part of that, we've carved out a program that once we go live on this program, she's going to provide life coaching to employees and coach them and their managers to support them on their career pathing. So we've been able to take what she's passionate about, what she's loving, what she just didn't and create a role for her actually, which is beneficial for us because she's just going to be amazing. And it's great for her and her development.
That's fantastic, right? And I get what you mean by job sculpting is it may create a new position in the organization. Does that add to does that mean, okay, now you have to replace her old position? You've created a new position. Maybe some leaders are thinking, well, that's going to create extra costs. We can't just go around creating a new position for every employee.
We have not added another headcount. So what we did with her old role is we knew there was another individual in part of our team who really wanted to get into the engagement side. So we divvied up her role and took different chunks and gave it to other individuals. And so don't think for a second that we just added all this volume onto these other people. We didn't. We made some choices and said, what's going to stop? What are we going to stop doing? What isn't that important and necessary? And that's what we've done. And it's been amazing. I've had another example in a past job where I had someone who was on my recruitment team, and I also had someone who was doing compensation. And it was interesting when we went through this exercise and I asked them what they'd love to do. The person who was recruiting loved compensation analytical capabilities, wanted to go into analytics. And the person I had on comp really loved the whole, how do I influence people? I want to build relationships. I switched their roles and they were incredible after that.
That's amazing.
It was awesome.
Amazing. So what I'm hearing is that, one of the stupid rules that you guys don't follow, that other companies might follow, is that they're a slave to their org chart.
Yeah.
And you have a very dynamic org chart where you might just say, this job's gone. And I love that. That's really cool. Well, geez, I wish I worked at Flip. Thank you so much for sharing, having such a great conversation here and I'm just going to close out with, I ask every guest what their definition of productivity and why. And so I'll close out today's session with that.
Wow, that's a great question. What is productivity and why? I would say productivity to me is being able to get the stuff done that you have on your list that you really want to deliver against in a way where you don't have excess stress. So it's knowing exactly what you need to deliver and knowing how you're going to deliver it. That to me is productivity. And then, I've learned along the way, I haven't always been overly productive. I've had some challenges.
Sure. You're human. It's good to know.
So there's a few tips I've learned along the way to help me become more productive. And I'd say that, the top two that I would suggest people think about, one is just stepping back. Like every Friday, I don't know about other people, but we have a heavy meeting culture. That's one thing that I see that's challenging, because I find sometimes you're in so many meetings, how the hell do you get all your work done? And you don't want to have to work 24/7 because we all have a life and we've got other commitments that we're going to do. So every Friday I step back and I look at my calendar for the following week and I identify what are the meetings I don't need to go to? Who can I send on my behalf and empower? And I mean, truly empower. Like if I'm at that meeting, they're empowered to make the decision. I have to live with it because they're attending on my behalf. So I disinvite myself from as many meetings as I possibly can. I think that's
awesome. I love that.
I think that that's really, really important. And I guess the other one is just probably like other people, I write tasks in my calendar. So I try to identify if I have to deliver a presentation to the board, I'll back it up a week and make sure that I've practiced, I've got everything done. And I really do put steps and I backtrack to make sure that I manage myself almost like projects.
Right. That makes sense. Break it down into a project, little milestones, and put it in the calendar. And then it's going to get done. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find out more about you and about Flip?
Well, you can find out more on LinkedIn. So it's Sandy Scholes, and you can find me on LinkedIn for sure. And, with Flip, they can just Google Flip and you'll get all the information you need to know. And you can find our app. It's a free app where you can have savings and deals. And I would really encourage people to make sure they get onto our app.
Another way to be more productive, save money, right? That's productive. Money. Awesome. Well, everybody wants to save money. So go check Flip out, and knowing that it comes from such a great company, it's being run in such a great way by great people, is also encouraging for everybody to go out and get it.
Well, thank you.
So, and thank you all for being here. We covered a lot of good stuff. So for leaders on the line, you're going to want to re-listen to this and take some further notes, because there were a lot of really great tips that came out of this show. So thank you for being here. My name is Penny Zanker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.